thought you guys just ran away or something. You were just not going to. Okay. Great. So, brands and agencies. How many agencies do you work with?
We have about 5 right now, and that's been scaled back some. But McKinney, who's our agency of record, creative, but we have media, we have PR, we have social, we have a licensing agency, so, and then many other digital agencies that my team doesn't work as closely with.
Tell me about the scaling back. Kind of what was happening then? Sort of what was the thinking behind it?
So part of it was we've been acquired by Expedia back in January, so some of that's just due to the business relationship. But the other part of it was trying to figure out what can we do internally, what do we need agency partners for, and making sure that, I know there's been a lot of discussion of overlap and what are people working on and are they doing the same things. And so we really tried to dig into what is everyone's role, what are they trying to provide so that we're not double paying or we're not wasting anybody's time.
Yeah. What about you guys? Just sort of walk us through how your model works and what you found around the way.
So we have a whole digital internal department, and we work with agencies for SEO, media, digital development, digital creative. We are trying to find ways to scale back where we can bring it internally, hire internal resources versus paying external agencies, and really building the internal expertise.
So it feels like overlap is like one of the major issues of like having too many agencies, and then the other one is a question of just money.
Yes.
I mean, just paying too much.
Common theme, budget.
Yes. I mean, talk to me about the second one. I mean, how sort of what are the discussions you're having internally when it comes to paying your agencies, and how much is the right amount, and figuring out then that maybe we don't need that and we need to scale back?
So I think, at least with Stanley Black & Decker, we have a huge digital push. So we have buy-in from senior management, which, while really exciting, we're not necessarily getting the funding to support that. So it's a constant battle of wanting to fulfill the expectations set by senior management and having the resources to actually do it. So we are trying to staff internally. We are trying to build those expertise and really fulfill our brand initiatives. I think it really comes down to balancing budgets and demand, and it's a constant struggle. So
is it the same?
Yeah, I think the key for us is just it goes back to what's everyone's role, and I think we rely a lot on our agency partners too to prove value. I mean, there's in the e-commerce realm, it's ROI and measurement. It's always important, even the non-working cost of the fees for paying your agency. So I think what we've been trying to do is really show the value and what's the output coming out, what can they offer that we obviously can't do from an internal standpoint. But.
Yeah, and to that point, I think we're new to digital. While it's existed and we've had digital initiatives, we aren't scared to admit we're not expertise in certain areas, and that's where we look for our agencies to support us and to give us their knowledge and guide us and teach us. So we're eager for all of that information. We definitely are looking for that expertise that we don't have in-house.
But isn't it also, I mean, I know a lot of CMOs and a lot of brand marketing people also just say, like, I just can't deal with 5 agencies. It's like having 5 children. I just don't want to deal with those many people. Does it ever come down to a question of just like logistics? I mean, figuring out, the overlap thing is an issue. Is everyone doing the same thing is an issue? And communication is a big barrier, right?
Right. No, it does, and we were talking about this earlier too. But you also, if you consolidate too much, you then don't have experts in those own areas. So there's give and take on both sides. For us, we there is a lot more logistics, of a lot more conversations, bringing everyone to the table, but we also try to push responsibility to say, y'all have to work together, because if you don't, then we're just going to peel this back. We're going to peel this scope back, or we're going to take this internally. So, part
it's
of
like a threat.
It's not a threat, but it's more of a a strong encouragement to work together.
That's what my grandfather says.
Yeah, there you go.
Strong encouragement.
So, but no, the good news is our agency partners are willing to do that, and there's always times where they kind of overlap or they bump into each other, but I think that's helped us a lot, because without that, it's just you spend all your day just trying to make sure everyone's doing okay and understanding where they're what they should be working on. So.
Yeah.
I think it definitely comes down to communication. We have a really great digital marketing department for each of our brands, and it really comes down to giving clear communication, direction, expectations, setting expectations from the beginning, clear deliverables, and kind of eliminating that overlap. And so if you have that communication where agencies are delivering on very clearly stated expectations, the kind of fuzzy area goes away.
Yeah. Have you guys found, I mean, what was kind of a huge mistake that you once made and found that communication was lacking that kind of led you there? I mean, an anecdote?
Not off the top of my head. Brett, any?
Oh, there you go. No, we had one not too long ago in the social realm where there was just it was a mishap of something was posted and it was from a contestant from one of our integrations that we do with the roaming gnome, and it was something that wasn't meant in a bad way but could have come across insensitive. And it's I think this came up in an early conversation. It's human error. If we were doing everything internally, that would have probably happened at some point as well. So, I mean, what we did was we took a step back and said, let's look at the process, let's slow down a little bit, even if we sacrifice a little of that real-time momentum that you're tying into things, that's okay. Let's take a step back in the short term to make sure our process is right. And then, we did that for about a week, and then we went back to with better processes, better things in place, so hopefully we limit those as we
What
move
was
forward.
wrong in the process? I mean, was it a matter of legal not coming in? Was it a matter of just somebody not looking at it carefully enough?
It was a matter of a lot of different people who were doing the copywriting weren't necessarily having all the information that another group had on the integration. So some people did the heavy research to say, here are the contestants, here's the program, and then you had others writing it. It was just a matter of slowing down enough so that both teams could talk to each other and make sure that, okay, now this copy makes sense, or no, I wouldn't post that if I knew this was happening. So it wasn't anything a big aha. It was, we all try to move so fast and take advantage of every single moment, but you've also seen all the stories when brands do that and the big mistake happens and you realize it probably wasn't worth it, the trade-off. So we just try to tailor back in the short term, and whatever we lost in that week, is inconsequential to what could have been lost, long term if we, didn't fix, a small thing in the process.
Yeah, and it feels like that speed thing. I mean, Beth kind of talked about it a little bit, not working fast enough at one point, and it sounds like with you guys, there was a point where you're saying we're going too fast. I mean, how do you figure out that good balance there? Because I mean, your agencies have a big role to play in that particular thing, right?
Yeah, so I think we struggle. We have all these great ideas. Everybody wants to execute show-stopping material. We have a very slow internal process. So while we, internal teams, as well as our agencies, want to execute quickly, want to execute rapidly, it's not always possible. It's actually often not possible. And so it really is just, I think, level setting. What can we achieve? Putting in place actual realistic, achievable timelines. I hate missing timelines. I hate missing deadlines. So while we want to be aggressive, and we can certainly do our part internally, having the agency actually understand that while something should be launched in a month, it might take 2 months, and that's honestly the best we can do.
Instead of goal setting.
Exactly. Yeah.
You talked a lot about your internal capabilities, and it sounds like you guys actually have a pretty robust internal operation, right? I mean,
trying to build, yeah.
What is the relationship between that operation and the agency, and why not then just bring everything in-house if that's such a priority for you guys?
So we had talked about, we're based in Towson, Maryland, and so Towson, Maryland is not the next Silicon Valley, surprising, I know, but it really is finding the resources to actually fill the roles that we need. And so that's where, like I mentioned, we really leverage the agencies because we can't fill, getting an SEO expert, I think our rec was open for like a year.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's just finding somebody who can actually deliver on what we're looking for. And, we're still picky. So we know that we can leverage our agency partners if we can't find that right candidate. So it really is finding the right candidate in the geography that we need, with the expertise we need.
Do you guys have anything similar happening, or why don't you guys build your internal operation?
We're trying to strike the balance. I mean, obviously you have the internal political nature of bringing on more headcount, and then what do you sacrifice? I mean, it's a matter of speed. In the short term, it's always easier to go externally and get that expertise and get it up and running. What we're trying to do is really leverage our partners for what they're really good at and use that expertise. And anything tactical or administrative that we're probably paying a higher rate for externally, try to see if we can actually bring that in-house at a cheaper rate. Because then that allows our partners to focus on the things that they probably want to do versus much more tactical pieces. And we're really getting the best out of them, and then pulling some more administrative pieces in house.
Are you sacrificing anything when if you guys do start bringing things in house? Is there anything that you're giving up? It's just a question of speed. Just a question of speed, or
no? I mean, I think you can sacrifice some things by bringing things in house. You start getting more people to the table, so it's good. You have more sets of eyes, but if you have a partner that can handle a lot of those pieces, I do think there's some advantage to that. Mm-hmm. But it's a balance of budget, it's a balance of time, it's a balance of the political nature in your organization too, of can you bring things in-house, can you outsource it all to agencies, and I think it's, you're going to sacrifice something either way, and I think it's trying to strike that right balance.
So I had the benefit of working in an agency before. Shout out to Digiday. So it is interesting. You always hear your clients say, well, I have my day job on top of this. Yeah. And I never, as an agency person, I'd be like, oh, that's so annoying. But it's true. Like, we have, on top of, hey, why don't you come up with some really great big ideas that we have for this campaign coming up? It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to add that to the already 60 hours I'm working this week, and then I'll come up with your big idea. So while it's great and it'd be wonderful to have everything in-house, why not let experts handle that and come up with those big ideas and drive the strategy where they can invest all of that time?
Yeah, I like that though. What's the most annoying thing the agency says? You're just like,
I'll do it on top of my day job.
They say it too.
Yeah.
What about you? You mentioned politics. I think I want to talk a little bit about those internal politics, figuring out, like, should we bring things in-house? I mean, how do you convince, what's the hardest part of convincing management or upper management that something either needs to be in-house or no, we can't do this on our own. We need somebody else to do it for us?
It's honestly the toughest part for us is explaining what we're actually trying to do. And, in the world of e-commerce, brand is such a interesting idea that, it can't be measured as easily as, in SEM and, any meta search or anything else going on. And so brand and social and PR are these kind of softer, fluffier, what am I spending my money on? How am I going to get the return? So I think for us, the political piece is trying to explain the value of that, and then trying to explain why we need somebody else externally too to help us generate something that we think will provide value. And so I think that's where it's a struggle. It's not a matter of, hey, is our agency doing a good job or not? It's a matter of, does our organization, does our parent company understand kind of where we're trying to head, because it's not a short-term horizon in terms of impact and ROI. It's a longer-term game, and it's always tougher to explain something that you can't touch or feel right now.
Do you find yourself spending more time doing that these days, like just figuring out why you shouldn't bring something in-house, or conversely, why you should keep the agency? Has anything changed in the last couple of years?
I wouldn't say it changed. I think, as slow as we may move, we also, to get to that 2-month goal, it has to start on day one. And so while it does seem like a long lead time, we know we have to get started. So we don't, I can speak only for myself, I don't have the luxury of debating, okay, can we hire this person, or should we freelance it, or should we just use our agency? So if we have a good, strong relationship with our agency, we're going to leverage them immediately. If we have an idea, we're going to kick them off and let them move forward, and then circle back with us when they have something to share. I think it would be a great luxury to have the time to debate what is the right approach, but that, with budgets internally and strat plans, we start thinking about that years down the road.
But speaking of budgets, I mean, agency pricing can be a black box.
Yes.
I mean, that's a huge issue, and I think everyone talks about it. Creative media, PR, everywhere. Yes. I mean, what's sort of going on there, and sort of does that turn you off a little bit?
It does. I think Brett was mentioning, helping educate internally why we're spending the money. So when we see internal budget reviews and there's agency line items, we were talking about this just before, it's an immediate red flag, and then we have to go justify why we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for an SEO agency, and then it becomes an education of what is SEO, why is it beneficial, why do we need resources, and so it's budgets, constant struggle, constant justification, but also really worthwhile and needed.
Yeah. Same thing with us. I mean, we'll get questions like, wait, we're paying them this amount, what are they doing right now then for us? So, because they're viewing it sometimes as, well, you're here doing your job, so if we're paying them, then they're doing they should be doing something at all times. And so that's where it's the helping educate them to understand that, no, we're doing bigger projects, there's other pieces, so it might not be a minute-by-minute comparison, but this is how, we are partnering together to get to where we need to go. So.
Cool. Give about a minute for questions, if there are any. Nope.
Oh, darn.
All right. Oh, well. Well, thank you so much, you guys.
Thank
That's great.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we're going to come back.